multi-agency operation led by DEA with our local, state, tribal, and federal partners targeted one of the largest and most dangerous drug trafficking and foreign terrorist organizations in our country.
At 9:18 a.m., behind a row of cameras and sealed microphones, a federal spokesperson cleared their throat and said 4 words no one expected to hear. This was already compromised. By the end of that morning, 5.6 tons of heroin had been removed from secure facilities across Virginia. 17 encrypted servers were seized. 9 shell corporations collapsed in a single hour. And the private office of a sitting Virginia state senator was sealed by federal agents under National Security Authority. This was not a street bust. This was not a border seizure. This was not even a cartel takedown in the traditional sense. This was the exposure of a system that had been quietly repurposed from the inside. And what investigators uncovered next made it clear. This wasn't just about drugs. It was about control. At 4:32 a.m., Northern Virginia was still asleep. Fog hovered low over empty highways. Office buildings glowed with cleaning crews inside. The streets were quiet enough to hear rotor blades before they were visible. That was when the first doors came down. FBI tactical teams moved first. DEA units followed. ICE agents sealed transit routes. SWAT teams took exterior control. No sirens. No announcements. Just synchronized movement timed to the second. Within 12 minutes, 14 locations were hit simultaneously across Fairfax, Arlington, Richmond, and Chesapeake. Underground processing rooms beneath commercial warehouses. Luxury apartments registered to consulting firms that didn't exist. A non-profit medical supply distributor operating out of a closed hospital wing. And 3 logistics hubs disguised as agricultural exporters. Flashbangs shattered the silence. Steel doors folded inward. Agents moved through corridors like shadows, rifles raised, commands sharp and clipped. Inside the first warehouse, they found heroin stacked in vacuum-sealed bricks marked, weighed, barcoded. Inside the second, fentanyl pills pressed with pharmaceutical precision. Inside the third, surgical crates labeled as donated equipment. But when agents opened those crates, no equipment was inside. Only refrigeration units. And inside, those units transport manifests, biometric tags, and evidence of something far darker moving alongside narcotic shipments. At 4:58 a.m., a field commander radioed 3 words back to headquarters. "We need cyber." By sunrise, federal forensic teams were inside a secured facility outside Quantico. Analysts stood in front of a massive digital display as encrypted drives from the raids began unlocking layer by layer. What appeared was not chaos. It was organization. A sprawling operational map labeled with a single internal code name. Iron Veil. Shell companies layered over shell companies. Logistics firms routing cargo through compliant ports. Restaurant chains laundering millions through cash-heavy operations. A fake veterans charity receiving government grants that vanished offshore within hours. Money didn't just move. It flowed smoothly, deliberately, intelligently. Transfers jumped from Virginia to Panama, to Cyprus, to Singapore, then back into U.S.-based infrastructure projects. No alarms. No flags. Then analysts saw something they weren't expecting. Authorization keys. Not card-issued. Not foreign. State-issued. The digital fingerprints matched secure access credentials tied to a single office inside the Virginia State Legislature. A senior state senator. Committee chair. Infrastructure oversight. A man publicly known for border security speeches and law and order platforms. Privately known inside the system as the custodian. The custodian didn't smuggle drugs. He didn't touch shipments. He designed the corridors. Road construction schedules adjusted to create convoy windows. Port inspections rerouted during maintenance hours. Healthcare supply contracts rewritten to include refrigeration exemptions. This wasn't corruption. This was command-level collusion. By 6:40 a.m., federal leadership authorized the next phase. At dawn, a Joint Operations Command Center came alive. A massive digital map filled the wall. Virginia lit up in red. 72 active targets. Over 800 agents mobilized. SWAT teams pre-positioned. Air support on standby. The mission was simple. Erase the network. By 7:12 a.m., Black Hawk helicopters moved over rural zones where super labs had been buried beneath farmland. By 7:30, armored vehicles surrounded gated mansions tied to cartel finance handlers. By 7:41, tunnel access points near shipping rail lines were breached and sealed. Weapons were seized. Cash was counted by the pallet. Encrypted radios went dark. Then came the arrests. Mid-level cartel coordinators, corporate compliance officers, logistics executives who thought they were untouchable. And finally, at 9:03 a.m., federal agents entered the Virginia State Senate complex. No press, no leaks. The senator's office door was closed, then opened. Hard drives removed. Safes emptied. Personal devices bagged. When the senator was escorted out through a private corridor, one agent later described his expression with a single word: relieved. Because the truth was already out, and the worst part hadn't even begun. Inside seized servers, investigators found internal patrol logs. Border agents paid to disappear at exact times. Traffic enforcement schedules rewritten to leave corridors open. Judicial calendars adjusted to delay warrants just long enough. Entire units had been compromised. Not bribed randomly. Assigned. This wasn't infiltration. It was replacement. One honest officer, reviewing the data, removed his badge and set it on the table. Everything we protected, he said quietly, was protecting them. By the end of the first day, officials confirmed what no one wanted to say out loud. The cartel hadn't penetrated the system. The system had been redesigned to serve the cartel. And Iron Veil wasn't limited to Virginia. Not even close. By 11:20 a.m., the map in the command center changed. What had been red clusters across Virginia began to connect thin white lines, stretching outward, then thickening into arteries. Routes didn't stop at state borders. They leapt them. Trucking corridors fed into Midwestern distribution hubs. Rail spurs slipped toward Gulf ports. Agricultural exporters on paper became cover for refrigerated convoys that never stopped. Investigators zoomed out. The picture sharpened. This was continental. Iron Veil wasn't a cartel network moving through the United States. It was a logistics system inside it built with permits, inspections, grants, and compliance stamps that looked legitimate because, on paper, they were. Ship manifests showed altered weights. Weigh stations reported calibration downtime. Port scanners were routed to alternate lanes during routine maintenance windows that somehow always aligned with convoy arrivals. Tons moved weekly. Not quietly, confidently, because no one was supposed to be watching. At 2:07 p.m., analysts isolated a final layer of encrypted files. This one was different. No shell companies. No charities. No restaurants. Just planning documents. Facilities labeled as regional operations centers. Long-term leases near infrastructure nodes. Staffing models. Security redundancies. Permanent locations. This wasn't trafficking anymore. This was governance. A shadow architecture designed to outlast elections, investigations, and headlines. One analyst leaned back and said the sentence that would later appear, anonymously, in briefing notes. The system wasn't infiltrated. It was redesigned. By late afternoon, federal leadership authorized containment beyond Virginia. DHS issued classified alerts. ICE initiated transport interdictions. DEA coordinated with state task forces that hadn't been compromised. Military assets weren't deployed publicly, but they were visible. Aerial presence along critical corridors. Naval patrol adjustments near shipping lanes. Signals intelligence rerouted to monitor cartel communications bleeding into domestic channels. This wasn't a war announcement. It was deterrence. Let them know we see you now. At 6:44 p.m., the first retaliatory move came not violent, but procedural. False lawsuits filed simultaneously in 3 states. Emergency injunctions requested to freeze seized assets. Whistleblower complaints attempting to discredit task force leaders. The cartel didn't fire bullets. They fired paperwork. But it didn't work. Because Iron Veil's greatest weakness wasn't exposure. It was arrogance. They had built redundancy on top of redundancy, assuming silence would hold forever. It didn't. Inside seized communications, investigators found audio logs. Conversations between handlers and officials discussing preventative adjustments. Border closures scheduled to reopen, on cue. Judges flagged as reliable. Names weren't always spoken. They didn't need to be. Everyone knew who was protected. One message ended with a line that froze the room. Virginia is stable. Expand north. By midnight, arrests reached into other states not announced, not televised. Senior logistics planners, financial engineers, contract brokers. Quiet knock, quiet cuffs, quiet removal. The next morning, Officials faced a problem no press conference could solve. How do you explain that the badge itself had been used as camouflage? How do you tell the public that law enforcement wasn't just bypassed but mimicked? Internal reviews revealed entire parallel command chains. Fake task force orders issued through compromised channels. Patrol units rerouted under legitimate-looking directives. Raids leaked before they happened not by accident, but by design. Honest officers began stepping forward. Some resigned. Some testified. Some broke down in interview rooms when they realized how long they'd been used as cover. One veteran investigator said it best. "They didn't pay us to look away. They paid others to look official." As the investigation widened, the human cost sharpened. Evidence rooms filled with data tied to overdoses, timestamps, matching distribution surges. Hospital records flagged by the fake charities' medical shipments. Missing persons reports linked to refrigerated routes, mislabeled as humanitarian aid. This wasn't abstract. It was personal. Families destroyed by substances that moved freely because the road was cleared in advance. Communities hollowed out by violence that never made headlines. Lives erased quietly, efficiently by a system that never raised alarms. By day 4, Iron Veil began collapsing under its own weight. Routes shut down. Funds froze. Communications went silent. What remained was debris: digital, financial, moral, and one final revelation. Investigators uncovered contingency planning labeled Phase Black. A failsafe. If exposure reached a critical threshold, Iron Veil would fragment into autonomous cells, no central command, no identifiable leadership. A Hydra. Cut one head, and the rest survive. But Phase Black had a flaw. It assumed time. Time to execute. Time to reposition. Time to disappear. They didn't have it. Federal teams moved faster than expected because this time, there was no warning. By the end of the week, the central architecture was gone. Not defeated in a single battle. Dismantled. Brick by brick. Wire by wire. And yet, the victory didn't feel clean. Because everyone in the room understood one thing. Iron Veil wasn't unique. It was a model. A proof of concept showing how power doesn't always need violence. Sometimes, it only needs access. And silence. In the final briefing, no applause followed the numbers. 5,6 Tonnen seized. Hundreds arrested. Billions frozen. No one celebrated. Because the question hanging in the air had no easy answer. How many more systems were quietly optimized for the wrong purpose? How many corridors were still open? How many times had ambition shaken hands with silence and won? This wasn't the end of a cartel story. It was a warning. Democracy doesn't collapse with explosions. It erodes when systems are trusted without verification. When oversight becomes ceremonial. When power learns, it can move unseen. The cost isn't measured in headlines. It's measured in lives. Lives lost to fentanyl, heroin, meth. Families broken by addiction that arrived on time and undetected. Communities left wondering how it all happened without anyone noticing. The answer is uncomfortable. It didn't happen without notice. It happened with permission. And as the final files were sealed, one line remained highlighted in the after-action report. Not a statistic. Not a name. Just a sentence. Rebuilding trust will take longer than dismantling Iron Veil. Because, when systems are redesigned for darkness, restoring the light is the hardest operation of all.